to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show, and I remind you to go early and often to our Pal Talk News Network website, which resides at reportergary.com, reportergary.com, for news that you may or may not see, hear, or read in the mainstream media. We've been talking this week a lot about the blizzard, the post-Christmas Day blizzard that hit on Sunday, and people are still digging out. And I've alluded to the fact that the mayor of the largest city in the United States, the man who would be an independent president because he does not belong to either the Democratic or Republican parties, although he has been a member of each at one time or another, Michael Bloomberg, has really been taking it on the chin because they didn't do a good job of clearing the streets very quickly, and there have been at least 2 deaths. The one I reported to you yesterday, the newborn who was birthed in the lobby of an apartment building while awaiting EMS that didn't arrive until it was too late, and the baby died because the EMS could not negotiate the streets. And then a woman in her 70s, I have the sad responsibility to tell you, who also died because she was having difficulty in breathing, and it took EMS 4 hours to make it to her house. And by that time, she was as cold as the cold ground outside in the blizzard. And this was after the blizzard. Both these incidents occurred after the blizzard. And he's been taking a lot of heat for all of this. Well, now the New York Post is reporting that they have learned that the bungled attempt to keep New York City streets cleared of snow following the blizzard was the result of a work protest over budget cuts by the Sanitation Department. According to the New York Post, the sanitation bosses ordered the slowdown in protest over the budget cuts. Now, I don't know whether this story is true or not. I know that is what is being reported. But if it is true, I got to tell you, I'm disgusted. And I happen to be somebody who supports organized labor, but not when it affects the public safety. And if that's true, as far as I'm concerned, that's a criminal act on the part of the union bosses. You know, it's an emergency, for God's sake. You put aside your differences and don't take advantage of it, and you service the people who are paying your salary, and that's not City Hall. That's the people who live and work in New York City. And then you duke it out with City Hall later. But you don't put people's lives in danger. Now, there have been a lot of jokes about how this is an indication that Al Gore doesn't know what he's talking about when he says there's global warming. So I have it on good authority that Al Gore has decided to spend his winter in Australia, where the weather is at the extreme opposite of what we are experiencing here in the United States. In fact, so much so that tonight, that's right, it's already December 31st, New Year's Eve in Australia, fireworks displays are being canceled because it's so dry out there. Rod, what's the situation?
Precisely that, Gary. It's like a tinderbox here. I live 200 kilometres west of Adelaide itself in a predominantly barley growing area, and it must be endemic around the world because the council just haven't spent the money they usually do on clearing up, and all the roads along the sides are totally overgrown with bush, and everybody's really on standby at the moment. It'll only take a slight just a spark and the place will go up in flames, especially with this hot northerly wind that's blowing in at the moment. So we're all hoping that you know, some of the people that come up here on holidays don't light their barbecues regardless. You can't even have a gas barbecue. It's all they're all banned, and as it stands here, the firework display at Stansbury, which is something special, has been cancelled, and that's right on the beachfront. So that's how it sits at the moment. Although on the upper eastern states, there are dozens of communities have been evacuated because of floods, and the floods have reached the eaves of a lot of the houses there. So, come to Australia.
Well, isn't it interesting? We have these extreme weather patterns. We have blizzards here in the United States. We have droughts in Australia and flooding in Australia. It's really amazing. How do you not hold a fireworks display on a beachfront for fear of fire? I mean, it's either sand or water, neither of which could catch fire, Rod.
Well, that's very true, Gary, but the town in particular I'm talking about is a tourist resort, and it's absolutely chock-a-block with people camping on the Oval, etc. And they're concerned that with fireworks, people will get the idea that they can perhaps light their own, and all around, although it's on the beachfront, all around there is lots of dry areas, farms that are right up to the coast. And the ban stands. If they ban one display, they ban the lot, and it is a catastrophic fire danger day today. Absolutely. Back to you.
Well, in Detroit and in the Valley area of Texas, you don't have to worry about them setting off fireworks. The tradition there is that they shoot guns into the air. And what goes up must come down. And it is possible, and it has happened, to be shot by a falling bullet. And I know that in Detroit, at shift change at midnight, the shift from the afternoon that comes into the police precinct stays in the police precinct. And the shift that's supposed to hit the streets at midnight stays in the police precinct. Nobody wants to be out on the road while these idiots are firing guns into the air. And I know the same thing happens down in Texas. When my parents were down there as winter Texans down in the McAllen area, they would always make sure that they were home and away from the windows on New Year's Eve at midnight. Law 11 writes in text in our virtual auditorium on paltalk.com that there's a fireworks ban in Florida as well. Interesting. Well, another place where there is gunfire is Iraq. By the way, the number of civilians killed in Iraq, according to an organization who counts these things, has declined for the third straight year. But